Regenerative finance. The phrase shows up everywhere lately, usually wrapped in words that explain nothing. So, in plain language, what it is, what problem it solves, how it differs from normal finance, where it came from, and what a community could actually do with it. Picture a community with 50,000 euros and a hillside of thin, tired soil. Every institution they talk to asks the same thing: what's the return in 3 years? Fair question. Narrow one. Almost nobody asks what shape that soil is in 30 years. Regenerative finance takes the second question seriously. Here's the shape of the next 8 minutes. What regenerative finance is, why ordinary money depletes what it touches, how it differs from the finance we already live inside, where it came from, how it relates to the crypto world, and what a community could actually do with it. Here's the whole idea in one line. Money arranged so that what it flows through ends up healthier than it was found. Not a product, not an asset class, a design goal for how money moves, and everything else is mechanism. 3 words get mixed up constantly. Extractive means more comes out than goes back in, the soil gets thinner, the people get tireder, and none of it shows up in the accounts. Most of the economy runs here. Sustainable means you break even, you do less harm. Good, and, on an already depleted planet, a promise to hold still. Regenerative means you leave it better, deeper soil, more skills, more trust. It's a line, not a switch. So why does normal money tend to deplete things? The lazy answer, bankers are greedy, explains nothing and fixes nothing. 3 fairly boring mechanics do most of the work, and all 3 are fixable. 1. Nature is free on the balance sheet. Soil, water, a stable climate carry no price, and something with no price costs nothing to use up. The spreadsheet has no column for it. 2. The future gets discounted. At an ordinary 7%, 100 euros 30 years out is worth about 13 euros today. Run that on a forest and its future value quietly collapses. 3. The bucket leaks. Money arrives in a place and leaves almost immediately: rent, chains, subscriptions. What matters isn't how much comes in, but how many times it goes round before it goes out. And one more, underneath the other 3. Borrowed money has to come back bigger. Borrow 100, owe 107, and that 7 comes from somewhere. A bigger harvest, a longer day, a corner cut. Interest isn't evil, but it installs a growth requirement. And growth requirements and finite land eventually disagree. Here's the difference. Conventional finance, return measured in money, a clock running in quarters, side effects called externalities, real but someone else's problem, and ownership as the right to extract. Regenerative finance, return counted in money and soil and skills and trust, all named so all fundable. A patient clock, matched to how long living things take. Side effects that are the point. Ownership reframed as a duty to care. Same tools, different questions, and none of it abolishes cost, risk, or failure. The clearest single move here is also the oldest. Separate power from money. Normally the two travel together, own the shares, control the company, take the profits. Steward-ownership splits them. Control stays with people connected to the work and can't be sold. Profit becomes a means, not the purpose. Ecosia holds a veto share, so it cannot be sold. Patagonia transferred ownership to a trust. Earth is now their only shareholder. Bosch has been foundation-owned since the 60s. Not fringe. Just rarely copied. So who invented regenerative finance? Nobody, really, and the honest version of the story is more interesting than a founder myth. 2 roots grew separately for years and met around 2021. Root 1 is the thinking, and it's old. Credit unions, cooperatives, permaculture, local currencies going back to the 1930s. Then in 2015, John Fullerton, a managing director at J.P. Morgan who left Wall Street and founded the Capital Institute, published Regenerative Capitalism. 8 principles for an economy modeled on living systems, borrowed from ecology rather than economics. Root 2 is the name. In 2022, Kevin Owocki, founder of Gitcoin, published green-pilled build systems whose side effects are good for their neighbors, not systems built for speculation. So the practice is decades old and the acronym is about 4. That's why ReFi sounds like a crypto term. It is one. The thing it names isn't. Which brings us to the question everyone asks: how does this relate to DeFi? Decentralized finance is the ordinary financial menu, lending, saving, exchanging, rebuilt as open code with no bank in the middle. That changes who controls the money. It says nothing about what the money does. You can build a perfectly decentralized system for something perfectly extractive. If you remember one line from all of this, make it this one. DeFi asks who controls the money. ReFi asks what the money is for. Two different questions, and you can answer either without the other. A community land trust is deeply regenerative and needs nothing but a legal contract. Now the part that usually gets skipped. The crypto branch overreached. Toucan moved existing carbon credits onto a blockchain, turning a slow market into a fast one. But many of those credits were low quality to begin with, and speed doesn't improve a bad measurement, it distributes it faster. In May 2022, the registry Vera banned the practice. A 2025 review found only about half of self-described ReFi projects were genuinely regenerative. So when is a shared ledger worth it? When many parties who don't trust each other need the same records. For one community with one treasury, a spreadsheet and a written agreement do more. So what actually works? 5 patterns all running somewhere already. 1. Mutual credit members trade using credit they extend each other directly. No euros, no interest, and the circle always sums to 0. 2. Local currency, a unit only good locally, so it circles many times instead of leaving on day 1. 3. Land and trust, a community land trust holds land permanently while buildings can still be sold, removing speculation once, structurally. 4. Patient capital, members lend at 0 to 2% over 10 years instead of a bank at 7 over 5, and repayment can be partly in kind. And 5. Many small donors, quadratic funding splits a shared pot by how many people gave, not how much. 100 people giving €1 beat 10 giving 10. 2 of those in the real world. Sardex in Sardinia has run mutual credit since 2008, thousands of small businesses trading tens of millions of euros a year without cash. It grew fastest when euros were scarcest, which tells you what it's for. Sarafu in Kenya is a community currency on basic phones, a randomized trial linked a $30 grant to roughly $20 more monthly income and more spending on food and water. So how does this land in an actual community? Not as a product, as 4 decisions you write down. In the blueprint, that's layer 3. 1. What counts as a return here? Name the non-money returns you're farming because what isn't named doesn't get budgeted. 2. What is commons and what is private, written before it's contested, not during. 3. Where does money enter and leave? Draw your bucket, find the leaks, then choose which ones you plug. 4. Who may spend what and who can see it? What does that feel like on an ordinary Tuesday? There's a regeneration line in the budget: repair, soil, maintenance, funded before surplus. Care work is recognized explicitly instead of quietly required of the same 3 people until they burn out. The loan doesn't push you to overharvest to make a payment date. And someone can leave without breaking the commons because that was designed in advance. And how would you improve it? Not with another framework. Pick one measurement that's local, physical, and inconvenient enough to be honest. A soil test on the same patch every spring. The share of your spending that stayed within 20 kilometers. Publish it and let it change next year's budget. That loop is regenerative finance. Everything else is instrumentation. It's also the answer to the carbon story. What failed there was that nobody could check the measurement. At your scale, you can check it yourself. Regenerative finance isn't a new asset class, and it isn't a technology. It's an old question asked properly. What is this money for, and what shape does it leave the place in? Here's where to start, and it costs nothing. Name one return that isn't money, soil, skills, trust, care, and put it in the budget. Thank you for listening.